There's a short sentence that appears neutral, polite, and emotionally stable. Yet psychological research shows it carries a complex internal meaning for many men. The sentence, "I'm fine," is often interpreted as a statement of emotional well-being. But in reality, it frequently functions as a psychological defense rather than a factual description. Studies in behavioral psychology, attachment theory, and neurobiology suggest that repeated use of this sentence is closely linked to certain personality patterns, emotional regulation styles, and past experiences, particularly in men. From a linguistic perspective, "I'm fine" is a socially acceptable phrase designed to end inquiry. It signals closure, reassurance, and self-control. In everyday interaction, it discourages further questioning. This makes it an efficient tool for managing social expectations. However, efficiency in communication does not equal emotional accuracy. Research consistently shows that men are more likely than women to underreport emotional distress in verbal communication, even when experiencing measurable psychological or physiological stress. Personality research identifies several traits commonly associated with habitual use of emotionally minimizing language. One of the most prominent is emotional avoidance. Emotional avoidance is not the absence of emotion, but the active suppression of emotional awareness and expression. Men with high emotional avoidance often experience emotions at the physiological level, but restrict cognitive labeling and verbal expression. This creates a disconnect between what the body feels and what the individual communicates. From a neuropsychological standpoint, this pattern involves heightened activity in the amygdala, combined with increased top-down inhibition from the prefrontal cortex. The brain detects emotional threat or discomfort, but instead of processing and expressing it, regulatory systems suppress outward response. The sentence, "I'm fine," functions as a rapid regulatory behavior that reduces emotional exposure and social vulnerability. Attachment theory provides further explanation. Men with avoidant attachment styles are statistically more likely to downplay emotional distress and emphasize self-sufficiency. This attachment pattern often develops in early life environments where emotional needs were unmet, dismissed, or punished. Over time, the brain learns that expressing emotional needs does not lead to comfort or resolution, but rather to frustration or rejection. As a result, emotional expression is inhibited. In these cases, "I'm fine" is not deception. It is a learned survival response. The sentence reflects an internal belief system that prioritizes emotional independence over relational connection. Emotional self-containment becomes equated with strength, stability, and maturity. Another personality factor strongly associated with this pattern is alexithymia. Alexithymia is a clinically recognized trait characterized by difficulty identifying and describing emotions. Men with alexithymic traits may genuinely struggle to differentiate emotional states beyond basic categories. When asked how they feel, "I'm fine" may be the most accurate answer they can access. Not because emotions are absent, but because emotional awareness is limited. Neurological studies show that alexithymia is associated with reduced connectivity between emotional processing regions and language centers in the brain. This makes verbal emotional expression cognitively demanding and uncomfortable. Over time, simplified responses become habitual. Stress physiology also plays a significant role. Chronic stress alters emotional processing by maintaining the body in a prolonged state of sympathetic nervous system activation. Men exposed to long-term stress often develop emotional numbing as a protective response. Cortisol dysregulation, common in chronic stress, reduces emotional sensitivity while increasing irritability and fatigue. In this state, emotional introspection feels overwhelming, and brief neutral responses become preferred. Trauma research further deepens understanding of this phenomenon. Psychological trauma, particularly when experienced repeatedly or early in life, reshapes emotional regulation systems. Trauma teaches the nervous system that emotional expression increases danger rather than safety. As a result, emotional shutdown becomes adaptive. The sentence, "I'm fine," functions as a dissociative boundary, separating internal experience from external communication. Men with trauma histories often display what clinicians describe as functional numbness. They continue daily responsibilities while remaining disconnected from emotional experience. This pattern is frequently misinterpreted as emotional strength or resilience, when in reality it reflects nervous system adaptation to threat. Cultural conditioning significantly reinforces these patterns. Many societies teach men to associate emotional expression with weakness, instability, or loss of control. Social reinforcement rewards emotional restraint and penalizes vulnerability. Over time, men internalize these expectations, shaping personality development. Emotional suppression becomes normalized and socially reinforced. Medical research increasingly links chronic emotional suppression to physical health outcomes. Suppressed emotion maintains elevated stress responses, contributing to hypertension, cardiovascular disease, gastrointestinal disorders, immune dysfunction, and sleep disturbances. The body continues to experience stress even when the mind denies it. In this context, "I'm fine" becomes incongruent with biological reality. Psychosomatic medicine describes this phenomenon as emotional incongruence, where verbal reports of well-being contradict physiological indicators of distress. Over time, the body expresses what language conceals. This can result in unexplained physical symptoms, chronic pain, or fatigue syndromes. Personality psychology also identifies perfectionism as a contributing factor. Men with high self-expectations often believe they should manage emotions independently. Admitting distress feels like failure. "I'm fine" becomes a way to maintain self-image and avoid perceived inadequacy. Another related construct is emotional self-silencing. This occurs when individuals suppress personal needs to preserve relational stability or social harmony. Research shows that chronic self-silencing increases risk for depression and anxiety, particularly when emotional expression is consistently inhibited. Importantly, the repeated use of emotionally minimizing language alters relational dynamics. When emotional truth is withheld, others receive incomplete information. Over time, this reduces emotional intimacy and mutual understanding. Relationships may become functional but emotionally shallow. This deterioration often occurs without overt conflict, making it difficult to identify the source of disconnection. Longitudinal studies indicate that emotional suppression predicts relationship dissatisfaction over time, even when conflict levels remain low. The absence of expressed distress does not indicate relational health. It often indicates emotional withdrawal. Cognitive neuroscience research highlights that emotional labeling plays a crucial role in emotional regulation. When emotions are named, neural activity decreases in threat-related regions. When emotions are suppressed or denied, physiological activation persists. "I'm fine" prevents emotional labeling, prolonging internal stress. The sentence also reinforces internal disconnection. Repeated denial of emotional experience weakens emotional awareness over time. This creates a feedback loop in which emotional signals become harder to detect, further increasing reliance on neutral language. In this way, "I'm fine" evolves from a response into an identity, It becomes how a man relates to emotion itself. The personality adapts around avoidance, control, and self-containment. Research does not suggest that this pattern reflects lack of emotional capacity. On the contrary, many men who use emotionally minimizing language experience deep emotions internally. The issue lies in regulation, expression, and perceived safety, not emotional depth. Understanding this sentence requires shifting perspective. It is not a simple statement of wellness. It is a behavioral artifact shaped by neurobiology, psychology, culture, and experience. It reflects how a man has learned to survive emotionally within his environment. From a research standpoint, addressing this pattern involves increasing emotional awareness, nervous system regulation, and psychological safety. When emotional expression becomes associated with safety rather than threat, language naturally changes. "I'm fine" is therefore not the problem itself. It is the visible surface of a much deeper psychological structure. It is a sentence that reveals how emotion, identity, and survival intersect. And that is why it remains one of the most misunderstood sentences in human relationships. Thanks for watching.